Okay, part two to a tenor video and some follow-up to some questions that I've gotten from the first one. In that people are wondering what I meant by motioning in little segments. A better way to say that is dividing the motion in segments. The last thing I did in the tenor video I did was I showed breaking down, your typical scrape pattern into like stuff like that. So you can actually find what I call checkpoints of motion. Okay, so here's the points to remember. There's an x-axis, there's a y-axis, there's a horizontal motion, there's a vertical motion, but there's also an in-between slicing motion. There's kind of like, you have those 2 points representing horizontal and vertical, and then you have this movement in between. That's why it's so important to really focus on upstroke, or starting like this in the beginning. The reason that is important is because so many of us have problems with just downstroke. Everything is so, downstroke oriented, and that just won't work for tenor drumming. It won't work at all because you depend on moving efficiently from one thing to the next, and having good sound quality while you do so. So that won't work. That's why I said making sure it starts out like this, and you gradually pick it up little by little by little by little by little by little, and you're seeing that same motion just get more finite, more smaller as you get faster. Then what you'll begin to do is really think of everything like a check pattern or a check in motion. Another really basic exercise to explain that is a 6-tuplet exercise where you just take triplets around the drum. It goes like this, this fast. 1 triplet, 2 triplet. That's it. And the drums are 1, 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4. Now, I could play that with just the idea of downstroke and play it like this. Just like I demonstrated with the legatos. Or I could feel that in-between motion I was talking about, this motion in there, and begin to start focusing on the upstroke and focusing on shifting from one drum to the next, like this. I didn't play the next drum, but now I'm ready to. Next drum. Right? Next drum. So by doing that and moving quickly, I could pick up the tempo, just like I would on one drum. Because my hands are feeling what I call the economy of motion, that in-between point. You can't pick it up and just do X or Y. You have to have that little in-between motion. So that's where the check mark comes into play, and as you play lower, that motion is what glides you along the drums as a tenor player. Right? Slower. Really accentuating the upstroke. And the shift. That is a very, very basic exercise. Once you get it fast, it feels easy. And you can move it around as much as you want, whatever singles, make yourself feel like a hot shot or whatever. But until you feel that in-between X-Y axis in this kind of shift, then that won't happen. Not to mention being able to play fast signals, which you can always practice on one drum first. Don't do this. Don't do this if you can't do this. That's a typical exercise. The other thing I wanted to address is then just taking very, very typical flam patterns around your drums. You know, like terms that people know, like jungle, the jungle pattern, where you just go outside, or you know, there's different names for them, whatever. But basically, you take your drums and you go to the outside with the accent. So you take a triplet accent pattern, one triplet, two triplet, triplet accent, right? Very, very basic rudiment. And then split your hands between 1 and 2 and go to the outside drums. One of the things I really liked was when my teacher paired up the idea that I can split my hands up and I can hear one note on the ride cymbal and one note on the snare drum, and I can hear those two things differently. And it really broke apart what each hand was doing rhythmically. The tenors are great for that. You know, if you just have two hands on two different drums, it's doing that. When you have right hand, ba da 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 da. So you give yourself a chance to really open your ears up big, and then it'll clean up the way you sound, and it'll also clean up the way you sound on one drum. Again, stopping the stick, all those things that are talked about in some of the other videos I addressed, but then moving them around the drums. After you get bored with this, you feel good, start to apply, you know, go into the stop. And then go back to 1. Then later, you go to crossing, which, you know, it's just an application of both. Shifting and then keeping things down low. Like, take that same exercise, triplet, and cross it. You don't want to go over like this. You want to go through. So those are some just basic ways to very simply tie all those things together, and hopefully they help out and elaborate on what I was talking about with the X and the Y axis, horizontal, vertical, and also give you a chance to really clean yourself up the way you look and the way you sound as a tenor player. Please let me know, and if you have any questions, and I thank you again for your comments, and have fun.